welcome to Convo Fango. Today we are talking about The Twin. We are joined by the star of The Twin, Steven Cree, and filmmakers Taneli Mustonen and Aleksi Hyvärinen. I messed it up, guys. I had it.
No,
I know
that's good. That's really good.
It was perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
So nice to meet you.
Wonderful. Thank you for coming to hang out with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Steven, where are you right now?
I'm in London right now.
Okay.
I am in my kitchen in London with my funky wallpaper
That is fantastic,
Yeah.
funky wallpaper.
and some washing, drying, very glamorous. Oops, dropped my computer.
I love it. My kitchen is actually right next to me, but I'm not going to show it to you. So there's that. And then you
Good
guys are in
place to
West
be.
Hollywood. It is a good place to be. Close to snacks.
Exactly.
And you guys are in West Hollywood. You're
Yeah.
right up the street. You're here for a premiere.
Yeah.
Yay. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, we flew into LA yesterday, so we're totally jet lagged and getting ready
Yes.
for the premiere tonight.
Nice. You already look
Yeah.
premiere ready, though. Is this your premiere outfits? Because you guys look very
Really?
fancy right now. Yeah, you look
Oh
fantastic.
my god.
Wow.
Oh my god.
Are you
Okay.
wearing?
Pajamas.
We're in our pajamas. Yeah.
Are you wearing the tux again?
Of course.
Of course.
Nice.
What else?
Beautiful.
Nice. Good.
So you guys have already had a premiere in Finland, and now you're here for the LA premiere.
Exactly. Yeah.
Amazing.
You got to
How many
make the most
premieres?
of it, right?
Yeah, I'm like, have a dozen. You just jet set all around and just have premieres all month long.
We're actually planning on a trip to South America where the movie's getting, theatrical distribution in pretty much all of the countries. So we actually have a plan of maybe going there and organizing something. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm here for it. I'm like, take all the trips to travel the world with this movie. That's amazing.
Yeah, thanks so much.
So first, tell us a little bit about what this movie is about.
Yeah, the setup, you mean? For the story?
Yeah,
Basically,
the
it's
story.
a-
No
it's a-
spoilers, but yeah.
Yes, yeah, that's the hardest part. You've seen the film, obviously. So it's basically it comes down to the story starts like pretty much all the horror films that we grew up with. It that you have a family, American family, and you have this tragic loss of where they in an accident they lose one of their identical twin sons, and they decide that they want to take this sort of like a year off, and they come to Finland where the husband has some distant relatives, and that's sort of like the starting point to any good horror film, but then we take it to whole different ball game from that point on. So that's the story setup.
Yeah, well, obviously happens in Finland at first. The mother and the father think that everything's fine, and it's been a great choice to come to Finland. The serene nature and the silence and the isolation. But one morning, the surviving son confesses to the mother that he's actually getting a nightly visitor, and it seems to be the deceased brother. So that's where kind of everything turns evil, of course.
Yeah.
Creepy kids is such a thing for me. I love children, but creepy kids in movies, I'm like, oh, there's just something so chilling about it where I'm like, this is way creepier than a slasher running after me. I feel like I can outrun a slasher. A child, it's like I'm torn between I'm supposed to protect you, but I'm also creeped the fuck out right now. It's like that weird
Yeah.
at arm's length, right?
Yeah. Once in a while, you bump into like a kid on the street, and you go or your relatives' sons or daughters, and you just go there's something wrong, there's something happening. It's weird,
Yeah.
Something off about this one.
yeah,
And also even the cutest little kids, as a parent, you have these moments where they go Dad, who's that man behind you?
yeah.
And you're there's no one in the room, what's going on? It's just super creepy. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of
Yeah.
that you can do a lot of horror about that.
Steven, how
Scary.
did you feel when you first read the script?
I loved it, and it was interesting because Teresa Palmer, who plays Rachel, I had been working with Teresa on A Discovery of Witches, and
Which I love,
this-
by the way. I'm a fan of that
Thank you.
show, just say.
thank you very much. I will take all compliments.
Oh, please, more. Go ahead.
It was November 2020, I think, and Teresa mentioned this film, The Twin, a script that she'd been offered, and she was reading it, and she immediately said to me, I think you'd be great for Anthony. You should, get your agent or someone onto it. And at that time, you know, we were still deep in lockdown. I had been back and forward to Wales a lot. I've been away from my family a lot. This film was shooting in Estonia, and I just didn't really engage with what she was saying, because I thought, I can't do it. Even if I got the job, I can't go away from home again, blah, blah, blah. And then a couple of months later, basically, you know, the actor who was going to be playing Anthony had to drop out pretty last minute. Teresa suggested me to Aleksi and Taneli, or Taneli, or however we want to say his name tonight, and to Mr. Mustonen. And Teresa sent the script over to me. And I immediately connected with Anthony, and immediately understood why Teresa thought I would be a good fit for Anthony. And as I was reading through it, like Taneli says, it starts like so many great horror movies, and the horror movies that I grew up absolutely loving as well. And so I was like, okay, great. And then it just completely and utterly, there's a part in the script where I was totally blindsided by it. And didn't see, I don't want to say anything, but and for me, it made Anthony like an even more interesting proposition and challenge to play. And fortunately, they then just offered me the role without even having to audition. And I was like, are you sure? Because that's not normally what happens. I audition for every, and I was like, really, I'll do something. So it was good.
But Steven, we were right though, weren't we? You know.
Well, listen, as long as you guys are happy, that's the main thing.
We are.
and you are.
Of course.
You're hired.
Those are two very happy faces right there. I think they are pleased with it. Yeah. It's so strange though, because like, I mean, obviously I watched the movie, and so now I have it in my head a certain way, but like, I can't imagine anyone but you in that role. So it's now weird to me, because there's such a, there's so many things happening and so many things at play that like feel like your two characters in particular, yours and Teresa's characters, there's so many layers, and you have to balance each other out so it doesn't ever swing in one way or the other, or feel too much this or too much that. So you guys are so perfect, like the chemistry and playing off one another, to where you're likable and we empathize, but also we're like, I'm not quite sure. There's always this air of like, I'm not really quite sure about anybody, to be honest, right? And that's hard to pull off.
I think that's great, and I think that's what I get. You know, Taneli and Aleksi, I'm sure will, you know, offer more. But I think in a movie like this, having that air of mystery or unknown or not sure who to trust throughout, and it was a difficult, you know, certainly from my point, it was difficult to try and listen. You have to just take it scene by scene as well, but obviously you have an idea and kind of mapping it out, but trying to capture that. You know, because Anthony's obviously kind of distant in a way and dealing with things in his own way, but also still trying not to be so detached that you're almost, you know, inhuman or something. And he obviously has a very different relationship with Elliot than Rachel does. So, like you say, there's a lot. I think as well, there's a lot going on.
Yeah, and also just the way that it explores. I mean, we all deal with grief. We all deal with it in very different ways. And this is such a great portrayal of like, this is how one person is dealing with it, and this is how another person is coping with it. And we're all just trying to fucking do our best also. Like, we're trying to do right by the ones we love. And maybe it's not always the right choice, but you're choosing out of love, and that's what you do. So it's like, it plays with that theme a lot in really interesting ways that I really appreciated.
Oh, thanks so much.
Oh, thanks. Great. Yeah, it is. You know, there's a lot of, I think we kind of also wanted to take that starting point as and you know, often it's used as a setup in a lot of horror movies. We wanted to also kind of just explore it to the full and
You
see.
mean grief?
Grief, and you kind of, together with Teresa's character in the movie, we kind of dive into this crazy rabbit hole where you just don't know what's true anymore. Yeah, and we just felt that was fascinating. But it also kind of talks about those themes.
Yeah, like you've seen the film now, but like for us, it was such a difficult script to write. It took us almost 2 years. And a lot of workshops and wonderful people helping around the globe. You know, like like people who know their stuff, and because it was such a nut to crack, because of the story concept in itself. And of course, we at the same time we wanted to create not the most exciting, intoxicating, enjoyable horror ride as well. So those two things need to balance. But definitely, we wrote it as a character story around Rachel, meaning Teresa Palmer's character, and so basically she's in every scene, and we were like, for us it had a lot to do with the family dynamics, because we started, like, the whole thing started out so that we came up with the idea because of we're both parents, and we started wondering, it's the obvious thing that as a parent you're afraid that something harmful would happen to your son, let alone that you would end up with losing your child. But for us it was also about what would happen in this scenario if you would have identical twin sons and you would lose the other one. What would happen with the family dynamics then? And that's sort of like sparked.
Yeah, you kind of have a constant reminder and the spitting image of your lost child.
So those
in
were
your
the
everyday
things that
life.
we felt in this, like
yeah. So there's a lot of layers. Just, and also Steven's character in the movie, the way the character kind of flips several times during the story. You don't really know.
We love those films.
That's really cool stuff. It goes back to the 70s, 80s horror film.
Yes.
And you love those like character studies, and you don't use as a creep only as a setup, and then go to other directions. But we want to really like build it around that thing and that rabbit hole feeling. That, well, you remember when you're in the cinema or you watch a horror film, and that you just can't help but to dive into it like totally, and it sort of goes to the subconscious level even. So that was sort of like our aim, and hopefully
this is what we were trying to achieve.
Yeah, no, I loved it. And then it also, so it's very much like a character study, and like I love that element of it, and it reminds me of stuff that I grew up with. And like I wasn't allowed to watch like rated R horror films when I was a kid, so I watched a lot of like classic like 70s kind of stuff, so like that's what I grew up on, because that's what I was allowed to watch.
Like way too young.
Absolutely. But just like the location adds so much to this, and the set pieces and the way people are dressed, because then it kind of almost feels like it's like, what time are we in? Is this contemporary, or is this just a place that's like kind of behind, or and it gives it this fantastical kind of feeling, so where you're very like a dreamlike kind of thing, and it just like immerses you in this world, which is so fun.
Yeah, exactly. That was one of the aspects. We had this wonderful production designer Tiiu Pello from Estonia, and she did wonderful work with our DP Daniel Lindholm to create this kind of like the world. And that was spot on. That was the aim from the get-go, that we wanted to create this kind of like that you could sense the history, that there's a lot of history and package, sort of, you could say, but at the same time you're sort of like, it's a timelessness. There's a certain feel to it, that it's sort of like we're in this weird strange world of Finland in the early 80s or whatever, but you can't really point out the exact year. So we love that kind of stuff. It's nice if it comes through.
Yeah, and Scandinavia and like Northern Europe, where we come from, where the story is set in Finland, it's we've got tons of old pagan beliefs, and the folklore is just so rich. So we kind of wanted to kind of, a lot of the things in the movie stem from that. It kind of is set in a place like the country that we still remember, but that kind of has disappeared. But then sometimes you go into like this border village in Finland or Norway or somewhere, like, holy shit, it's still here. It's still like those old pagan beliefs. They're somewhere hidden around here.
So that was kind of like, I know everybody's like probably has this feeling that when you drive somewhere like and you find this like small village, that you sense that there's a certain set of rules and there's a hierarchy and whatnot, and you sort of like you feel as an outsider. And
if you break the rules, that's not going to be well reasoned.
And Twin is definitely about isolation, and it's definitely about like we wanted to create like situations where Teresa is as isolated as she can be. She doesn't know the language and the manners and whatnot, and she feels like people are staring at her, and those kind of things that as you would feel as an outsider in coming to Finland in those days. And so,
I love
I
that
don't
so
know if I
much.
wish.
Yeah, I was expecting like elements of psychological horror. I was not expecting the amount of folk horror in this, and I love folk horror. So when all of that started coming in, I was like, yes.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
that was the other thing that we would definitely, as of course as Finns, we are really proud of our heritage, and it's been wonderful to see and witness, like especially lately in horror, that it's been used as kind of a like wonderful midsummers and now the Northlands, this kind of Scandinavian heritage and mythology that we have and folklore and whatnot. So that was definitely our aim, and also the concept of evil, like it's like the true evil, and there's a reason like we live in total. I should say, put it this way, that there's a reason why we created black metal in the northern countries, because like Nordic countries, because like we live in the total darkness for 7 months and so forth. So it was really fun to go back to those things and study them.
Well, now I also feel like I need to come to Finland and visit, but I need you guys as my
Yes.
tour guides,
Yeah.
because I don't want to wander
Yes.
into a little village by myself. Like I'm like, yes, I'm curious, but I don't need to go alone. Like I'll go with locals.
It's gonna be a found footage. We're gonna shoot it.
Oh no! Okay. Only if I get to guaranteed be final girl. I'm not trying to go to Finland and get like sacrificed in a village or something.
It'll be a cool experience. Don't worry.
You're gonna be sacrificed, but it's gonna be cool. We're gonna make it look metal as fuck. Don't even worry about it.
It's gonna be great Instagram photos.
Just make sure my hair looks good and make sure it's a cool picture, and it's fine.
It does. It's great. It's great.
Oh man! Oh, tell me about the swing. There's a really cool part with this gigantic swing.
Yep.
Steven, were you really on that? Like, were you actually riding this swing? Like,
Yeah, 100%. I did all my own stunts in this movie.
hell yeah!
Yes. It's that
More
it's
or
one of
less.
those films.
More or less.
I was like, all.
Almost.
Oh, okay.
The swing was genuinely great fun. That was like, particularly the setting, the location. I mean, like you touched on as well, that for me, coming from, obviously we filmed in Estonia, but coming from this part of the world, the locations and the job that Daniel Lindholm has done, it's like such a, it's like an extra character in the film. And it was it made it so easy as an actor to kind of be in that space. It was like so much of the work was already done for you. And where we filmed that wedding swing, it kind of felt to me like we were in the middle of nowhere. But to be honest, most of Estonia feels like the middle of nowhere to me. With all due respect to Estonia, it's just there's a lot of forest in Estonia, so you quite often are, in the middle of nowhere. And it was such a great location, and the villagers, when we were on that swing, it looked creepy, it felt creepy, but it was really good fun actually as well.
Did you guys did that swing exist there, or did you build it for production?
We actually built this one, but yeah, those do
Okay.
exist. And fun fact, you can actually make a full circle in
What?
in one of those things. You can
That's
actually
amazing.
go. Yeah, it
That's
is
so
crazy.
Like,
Never
really,
done it,
yeah.
but yeah, I've seen it done.
It's one of those, as a director, it's one of those things that you want to showcase that you can do it. Like I tried it like good 15 seconds and then I was done. Like I literally I couldn't keep up with it. And these guys were on like both Teresa and Steven were on like for hours and hours. So that was crazy.
Oh my
And that's why
god!
it's a wonderful scene. It's like
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do the full one in the twin too.
yeah.
True.
Yes. So that's,
You gotta make the full circle. You gotta bring it back. Yeah, that's terrifying. I would do like a little baby like sway. I don't think I would even get close to showing around.
yeah.
I don't know either.
Yeah, big respect for anyone who does that, but I would piss my
Yes.
pants and cry like before I even got close to that point. Like, let me off of this thing. So that's an actual tradition then? Like, it's a wedding swing? Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's a party swing. Back in the days when
Party
you
swing.
have you do have nightclubs and all that. It's basically what you did. You went on a swang something and swing. I don't know. That's the original swingers, I guess.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but
You guys want to go to a swingers
asking
party?
us, like, I don't know. We just came, we just Googled things. And,
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, you shouldn't trust us nor the internet. But
Yeah.
we took a lot of elements from all kinds of traditional folklore and
That's
pagan
so funny. I just
beliefs and
mentioned that I
wishes.
was Googling stuff and it's like,
Yeah.
but we did work on the screen.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not like it's an elevated take on
Okay.
on kind of the beliefs.
On wedding, it's an
Yeah.
elevated
Yeah.
take on wedding swings.
Yeah, basically,
Yeah.
basically, if you can hold on to the bar and you keep on the swing, then you probably survive a marriage, I guess. So,
Oh, okay. Yeah, there you go. That makes sense.
so, yeah.
I know you're just making shit up now, but it makes sense.
Yeah,
Like it's
yeah,
logical
yeah.
shit,
Exactly.
I buy into
Yeah.
it. It's gonna be a form
Yeah,
of
it's
like
like
couples
the-
therapy now. People are gonna be like, all right,
Yeah,
couples therapy, the swing, the ups and downs of life. We
it's
can
like-
do this.
Exactly, or the ancient version of swiping left and right, like whoever stays on board.
That's actually really-
Oh, I would die alone. I would fly off the swing like early on. I would never last.
yeah.
I'm sure the best couples are formed down in the ground. They're the ones that fall off. This is
Oh, yeah.
longest relationships
great.
there.
As long as they fly off together, then it's fine.
Yeah.
That's the funeral. Okay, now we have to stop it. We have to stop it.
We actually, what, this is really far. It's off topic.
This is my favorite tangent ever, though. This is a great tangent. Is there
the
anything
next horror
else
film.
that you
The
guys?
Swing.
Yeah, the swing. I would watch that. It's just like a live feed of the swing for just 90 minutes. Just swing. All right. Is there anything else you guys would like to share with us, swing related or not, before we go?
I think I would like to say that I think it's a wonderful horror film, and of course I'm biased as you know, but I think it's sort of like we wanted to create this kind of rabbit hole film that that takes us back to those horror films that we grew up with, like Omens and Exorcist and the Changeling and all those wonderful films. That
Don't Look Now.
Don't Look Now,
Yeah.
for sure. That basically where you sort of like you go into cinema and you just watch the film and it just grabs you and takes you on this crazy journey and into the rabbit hole where you don't know what's real anymore. And we have to mention Kill List, one of our favorite films of the last decade. And it's so those kind of films that you want to, in the end, you want to just like, we hope that it's a film that afterwards you want to grab a beer or go to a coffee and discuss it with your friends like we used to back in the day when we saw something awesome. And
Like what actually happened?
Yeah.
Like what was
Yes.
your take on the
it's a
story?
mind bender, but it's also, I hope it's a fun ride.
And I think Taneli often puts it well, when you're watching a horror movie, you're kind of watching it on two levels. As a kid or as an adult, you're kind of playing a game of like all the references to the,
Yeah,
the horror movies you love. And kind of, that's a reference to that movie and that's like an homage to that great film that I love.
Yeah.
But then as a kid, like the inner kid within you, you're just scared shitless basically watching it. And that's kind of the game of watching a horror film. And that's also something we wanted to kind of make possible for the audience. Kind of, there's a lot of homages in the movie, but at the same time, hopefully you dive into this crazy rabbit hole with Rachel.
Yes, I was having fun with the references, and I was also having a lot of fun just being scared shitless and going into the rabbit hole
Yes.
on the wild
That's
swing.
the other. We want to make scary horror. We want to make fun of scary movies and that.
Amazing. Well, thank you guys so much. Have so much fun at your premiere. I need to see your outfits because I'm like, you guys look very put together right now. So I need to know,
This is
like,
actually my pajama, and like you mentioned, Alex, like we have
okay,
no pants
braggart. Okay, in America, we just sleep in a t-shirt. Like, I don't know.
on. Yes.
I'm not speaking for all Americans. I'm speaking for me, just me. People are like yelling at the screen right now in their fancy pajamas and they're like their little champagne
But
goblets.
we will have our tuxedos ready, so we're gonna be fancy as
Tux it up.
It's gonna be a fun
Nice.
night.
yeah, tuxedo.
Very cool.
Exactly.
All
Thanks
right.
so much.
Well, they've
All
gone.
right. Oh, they said bye. Okay.
Okay.
All right. The Twin premiering May 6th on
Oh, that's
Shudder, in theaters, on demand, and digital. Check it out.